You see the silhouette in your mind, don't you? The lone warrior under a cherry blossom tree, hand resting on the hilt of a soul-forged katana, contemplating the fleeting nature of existence. He is honor-bound, a master of the sword, a poet, a philosopher. Now, take that image, ball it up, and throw it into a muddy ditch. Because if you were a samurai in feudal Japan, especially during the chaotic Sengoku period, your life would be less poetic warrior and more overglorified bodyguard with a high-maintenance hairdo and a boss who might ask you to kill yourself. Welcome to the brutal, unglamorous, and often absurdly bureaucratic reality of being a samurai. Forget what the movies told you. This isn't a hero's journey. It's a high-stakes job with the worst HR department in history. Let's set the scene. The year is, say, 1575. The Sengoku Jidai, or the Warring States period, is in full swing. Japan is a fractured, chaotic chessboard of feuding warlords or daimyo, each vying for absolute power. And you're a cog in that machine. A very pointy, very dangerous cog. But a cog nonetheless. You weren't born a samurai by chance. You were born into the samurai class. A rigid social hierarchy that placed you worlds above the farmers and merchants, but firmly under the boot of your lord. Your entire existence, from the clothes you wear to the person you marry, is dictated by him. Your purpose is singular, to serve. Service, by the way, is a wonderfully vague term that can mean anything from leading a cavalry charge to testing your lord's food for poison, or simply standing perfectly still in a corridor for 8 hours straight. Your identity is intrinsically tied to your master. You are not Kenji, the warrior from Satsuma. You are one of Oda Nobunaga's samurai. You are a tool, an extension of his will, and if he has a bad day, if he feels you've brought him shame perhaps by tracking mud into his pristine tatami room, your career and your life could end in a rather gruesome, ritualistic fashion. Let that sink in. Your life is worth less than your lord's momentary convenience. Of course, you get the cool gear. The deisu, the iconic pair of swords, the long katana, and the short wakisashis, your badge of office. It's the ultimate status symbol. The one thing that screams, I am legally allowed to cut down any peasant who looks at me funny. But the katana wasn't the primary weapon of war you might think it was. On the chaotic battlefield, you are far more likely to be wielding a yari spear or a yumi bow. The katana was a sidearm, a lasisachi, and a tool for resolving matters of honor in duels, or more grimly, in your own abdomen. And the armor, the iconic Oro. It looks magnificent in museums, but wearing it was a nightmare. A full set made of lacquered metal plates, leather, and silk cords could weigh over 20 kilograms, 45 pounds. It was hot, cumbersome, and required assistance to put on. Imagine trying to navigate a muddy battlefield or climb a castle wall while wearing the equivalent of a small person. It wasn't about agility. It was about surviving a volley of arrows long enough to get close and start poking people with your spear. The daily grind wasn't a constant stream of epic battles. Far from it. When you weren't on campaign, your life was a mixture of intense martial arts training, guard duty, and, believe it or not, paperwork. Many samurai were illiterate and served as administrators, tax collectors, and bureaucrats. So, in between practicing the perfect sword strike, you might be hunched over a scroll, meticulously recording rice yields. It's the ultimate irony. A warrior trained for death, defeated by fiscal reports. Part 2. The bloody truth behind the blade. Battle, when it did come, was nothing like the graceful, one-on-one duels of cinema. It was a terrifying, chaotic, and brutal affair. Imagine hundreds, even thousands, of men clashing on a field slicked with mud and blood. The air is thick with the screams of the dying and the thundering of horses. Arrows rain down from the sky. It's a meat grinder. Your skill with the sword means very little when a peasant with a sharpened bamboo spear gets a lucky shot in, or when an arquebus ball, a recent and dishonorable import from the West, tears through your expensive armor. Your goal wasn't just to kill, but to take heads. A severed head was proof of a kill, and presenting the heads of worthy enemies to your daimyo after a battle was how you earned rewards, land, and promotions. It was a gruesome accounting system. Warriors would even have attendants whose sole job was to follow them into battle, collect the heads, and prepare them for presentation. This wasn't a noble pursuit. It was a bloody, transactional business. And what of Bushido, the way of the warrior? This code of honor, loyalty, and self-sacrifice is the bedrock of the samurai myth. The reality, however, was far more. The term and its philosophy were largely codified during the peaceful Edo period, long after the wars were over, as a way to romanticize the past and keep a now unemployed warrior class in line. During the Sengoku period, loyalty was a suggestion, not a rule. Betrayal was rampant. A samurai might switch allegiance if a rival daimyo offered a better deal. A powerful general might betray his own lord to seize power for himself. It was a time of ruthless pragmatism. Your daimyo expected absolute loyalty from you, but he might not offer the same in return. You were disposable. If sacrificing your entire unit was strategically advantageous, he wouldn't hesitate. This brings us to the darkest corner of the samurai myth. Seppuku Hituau Suiciji. The movies portray it as the ultimate act of honor, a way to die with dignity. The reality was a horrifying, agonizing ritual. It was the prescribed method of execution for the samurai class. If you were captured, disgraced yourself, or were simply ordered to die by your lord, this was your exit. The act involved plunging the wakizashi into your own abdomen and cutting across an excruciatingly painful process. To make it cleaner, a trusted second, or kaisakunin, would stand behind you, ready to lop off your head with his katana at the moment of agony. But what if he messed up? What if his nerve failed? It was a brutal, bloody, and terrifying way to die, all to maintain a facade of social order and honor. It wasn't about dying with your dignity. It was about the system erasing you in the most controlled way possible. Part 3. The Unemployed Wanderer. What if you survived? What if your lord was victorious and you distinguished yourself in battle? Your reward would be measured in koku, a unit of isi, roughly enough to feed one man for a year. Your rank and wealth were determined by your rice stipend. You weren't paid in gold, you were paid in lunch. A powerful samurai might receive thousands of koku, allowing him to support a large household and his own retainers. A low-ranking samurai might barely have enough to get by. And what happened if your daimyo died, or his clan was defeated and disbanded? Congratulations, you're now a ronin, a masterless samurai. Again, forget the image of the cool, wandering ant. Being a ronin was a disgrace. You were unemployed, stripped of your status and income. Many fell into poverty, becoming mercenaries, bandits, or bodyguards for wealthy merchants they, very class they once despised. It was a fall from grace from which few recovered. Your personal life was not your own. Your marriage would be arranged by your lord for political or strategic advantage. Love was a luxury you couldn't afford. Your duty was to your clan to produce an heir and continue the line. Your entire life was a performance of stoicism and duty, with very little room for personal desire or happiness. So, what if you were a samurai in feudal Japan? You'd be a living weapon, bound by a complex and often contradictory code of conduct. You'd live in a world of breathtaking beauty and sudden, horrific violence. You would trade your personal freedom for social status, your life constantly hanging by the thread of your master's whim. You would not be the master of your own destiny. You would be a servant whose only true possession was the manner of his death. It's a powerful fantasy, but the reality was a rigid, unforgiving, and often short existence. So the next time you're stuck in traffic or dealing with a frustrating email from your boss, just be grateful that the worst case scenario is getting fired, not being politely asked to disembowel yourself.